If you've been following the new entry in the Halloween franchise from David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, you no doubt know that it's ignoring everything past the original masterpiece, including the sequel that John Carpenter wrote himself. In fact, if you watched the video I made on the topic a few short months ago, you definitely know this, and you just as likely have an opinion on the subject. And while the sequels past Halloween 2 have their fans, the biggest point of contention is Halloween 2. I've been thinking about this for months now, and no matter how many different defenses or reasons I can come up with to save Halloween 2, none of them really warrant it. The most common argument I get, and I think it's the strongest one, is that Halloween and Halloween 2 go hand in hand, that it's confusing to change the history that fans of the franchise grew up with. I think people are so quick to use this argument because the filmmakers made it so easy for them, and I don't blame fans for doing it. People see these movies as one complete picture because Halloween 2 picks up right at the end of Halloween 1. Why do we see it this way though? Sure, the creator of the original movie wrote it, but he famously dislikes the sequel. Hell, he even laid it all out in an interview with Deadline back in 2014. The interviewer asked him why he didn't direct any of the many sequels himself, and he said, "I didn't think there was any more story and I didn't want to do it again. All of my ideas were for the first Halloween, there shouldn't have been any more." Why did he even write the sequel then? Well, in the same interview, he reveals that he couldn't stop them from being made, so under the suggestion of his agents, he set out to become an executive producer, so he could see some of the money those sequels would almost assuredly rake in. For that to happen, he had to write a sequel to the first film, and in the same interview, he candidly states, "Every night I sat there and wrote with a 6-pack of beer, trying to get through this thing. And I didn't do a very good job, but that was it. I couldn't do anymore." Now, I really like Halloween 2. I think it's a lot of fun, but I also understand that it's a movie that was kind of created out of necessity by John Carpenter. Imagine if he didn't write it. He would have never seen a dime from one of, if not the biggest franchise in horror history. No matter how much Halloween fans love it, Halloween 2 was doomed from the start. The creator of its world had all but moved on, and because of that, it's easy for me to see why David Gordon Green and Danny McBride decided to strike it from the Halloween canon. Regardless of whether or not the finished product is good or bad, Green and McBride deserve a huge amount of praise for two things. First, that they wrote a script together that treats the character of Laurie Strode so well that Jamie Lee Curtis couldn't refuse to return to play the iconic role one last time after the mess that was H20. And second, and arguably most importantly, they got John Carpenter to care about Halloween again. In an interview with Rotten Tomatoes released in January, he was asked how he got involved with the new movie. At first, he sounds like the cynical Carpenter we know and love. He says, "Well, they asked me. You know, the rights went back to Miramax and Malik Akkad talked to me and he wanted me to do something. And then Jason Blum, who's the biggest horror producer in Hollywood, talked to me. He was going to produce it. They were willing to pay me, which is always a good thing, so I said yes." But he continues on with a statement that to me shows a pretty cool change of heart. "You know, I talked about the Halloweens for a long time, the sequels. I haven't even seen all of them. I don't even know what was really there, but it finally occurred to me, well, if I'm just flapping my gums here talking about it, why don't I try to make it as good as I can? I could offer advice. I could talk to the director. I like the director very much. I like the script. So, you know, stop throwing rocks from the sidelines and get in there and try to do something positive." And finally, he had this to say about his relationship with Green and McBride. "Well, I just met them. They came over to my office, we talked about what they wanted to do with Halloween, and I liked what they had to say. So off we go. They said they wanted me to do the music. So I said, well, okay, but I'm gonna take my son and godson along with me on that one." So to collect this all into a point, Halloween 2 is a movie that was begrudgingly created for the sake of getting paid. Green and McBride's Halloween sequel is a film being created with the same amount, if not more care than the original movie, from a script so good that it got two of the most jaded people linked to the franchise to enthusiastically sign on. And at least one of them got paid, so that's good too. As John Carpenter put it, Michael Myers was an absence of character, and yet all the sequels are trying to explain that. That's silliness. It just misses the whole point of the first movie to me. And now we have a movie that's changing all of those feelings. It's getting John Carpenter involved in the franchise in a way that he hasn't been in over 40 years. Now, if this movie is bad, it doesn't matter. We can just go back to pretending that Halloween 2 is still canon and no one's gonna stop us. But if it's good, if all that hard work and good sentiment from John Carpenter himself doesn't go to waste and we get something truly special, it's gonna be really hard to continue to defend Halloween 2. And that's something I'm okay with getting on board with. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go watch some horror movies. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.